exciting and informative show today. I'm going to have two panelists that's going to discuss creating Black wealth. Constance Stewart, who's here with me now, and Tiffany Allen, who will be here shortly. She's coming all the way from the South Side. So she's en route. Both are financial advisors. I'm going to introduce them shortly. I'm hoping I can introduce them when Miss Allen is here. But before doing that, I always start out with a scripture. For today, it's from Proverbs 13:22. And I picked this one because I said, which scripture can I talk about that talks about wealth? And this is the one. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. Now that's pretty deep. So it says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. That's a powerful scripture. It says, a good man handles money and goods wisely according to godly principles like prudence and generosity. He doesn't spend according to the desires of his flesh, the desires of the eyes, the eyes, like when you go in the store and see something on sale, or pride of life. He spends as a faithful steward of what God has entrusted him to do. A person who is content with what he has does not feel pressure to spend more than he sensibly should. And that's right out of Proverbs. He considers all that the Lord has blessed him with as the Lord and not exclusively his money. He doesn't look at the money as his. He don't think this is his money exclusively. He knows where it comes from. He wisely lives within his means, saves as consistently as possible, and has material, goods, and money to leave his children and his grandchildren. And that's kind of where we're going to start off today. We're going to start off first. I gotta tell you about this lady sitting next to me in the red. Got to tell you just a little bit about her. I really wanted for you to know more about her, but some people are just so modest. I may have to start bragging. I really hate to do that, but I may have to. Now I'm going to have two panelists, but the person sitting next to me, the pretty lady in the red, her name is Constance Stewart. She began her financial career with Prudential in October of 2012. She is always excited with the opportunity to educate her clients on the importance of growing and protecting their financial wellness. She works hard to ensure that each client is confident about their goals and prepared for unexpected challenges in whatever stage of their life. Path she's in. She has won various awards and was recently chosen to speak at her beloved sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated Regional Conference that was held in August of 2022. Constance enjoys reading and walking her beloved dog, Babe. She still have Babe.
Yeah, I still got that.
Her and her dog resides in Oak Park, Illinois. Help me welcome the lady in red, the financial guru, the financial advisor from Prudential, the one that's got all the answers and I got all the questions, the one that didn't mention that she got an undergrad, a master's in business administration, a real estate broker. Well, I'm not okay. I said I wasn't sorry. I said I wasn't gonna do all that, so I won't. But help me welcome Miss Stewart.
Thank you, Jay. Jay's a little biased too.
No, I'm not. Not at all.
Considering we've been knowing each other for over 20 years or more.
No, I'm not biased. I'm reading off this, but there's some things that I knew about, and she didn't put all the good in here. She puts kind of the fluffy, the general stuff. But when it comes to being a financial guru, she's it. And as we continue talking, you're going to realize she's it. So we're going to start. And I'm going to ask her something because I don't know anything about it. So maybe you do, and maybe she can answer it. It says, do you know what the coin phrase Henry means? I'm not talking about Henry the guy, but Henry. What's Henry?
Oh, that's a new coin phrase that I think that they created for us. And what that means
for us, meaning Black people?
I think so. High earners, not rich yet. Because they're saying that when earners make over $250,000, we make money, but we haven't created any wealth. So what we want to become are not Henrys, but we want to become high earners, rich and yielding. So we're going to turn that around because we do spend quite a bit of money, but at the end of the day, we have no wealth. So that's what we're talking about. We're trying to create wealth in the Black community because our wealth gap is our counterpart wealth gap is like that. And why is that? We make money just like they do, but we got to learn how to change our mind to start creating wealth, not just for now, but generational wealth, Jay.
Hmm. That's really deep. And you're talking about the high earners. And I can even not even the high earners. We're all conspicuous consumers. We'll make, I don't know, I'll give throw out something. We'll make 40,000 a year and go out and brag about buying an $800 dress. I mean,
Or have an $800 car note.
oh, have 11 or $1,200 car note. I know people that have car notes like that.
To get to the mindset that we don't have to have it right now, but if we do, what's the best way to do it and maximize our dollar and not be rich poor?
And that's what we want to do. And you talked about Henry being, what'd you call it? A
High earners,
earning. Okay.
not rich yet.
Not rich yet.
So they're saying we're making a lot of money, but we have no wealth.
Hmm.
And we want to create wealth.
So
and
do we have to make 250,000?
Oh, no.
Wealth?
You can create wealth making 20,000.
That's what
it's
now
not,
we talking.
It's not what you make.
Now we talking.
It's how you do with what you make. It's how you maximize that dollar. I've known people that make $40,000 are much wealthy than a person to make 250,000.
Wow.
Because it's all about a mind. It's all about what a priority is. What do we want to do with our money? And that's where we have to start. It's a mindset. And we have to change our way of thinking. We're struggling in the Black community.
Yeah, we are.
Why? And why are we struggling? We make money. We buy. We're biggest consumers out there, aren't we, Jay?
Yeah. We
So what we need to do is turn our mindset around and say, okay, how can we create wealth, not just for now, but for generational wealth? And that's what we need to do. Have you ever heard about the trust fund babies?
Mm-hmm, the little, I almost said something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what happens is their grandparents, as soon as they're born, they buy $1 million insurance policy to take it out on them, because statistics says that the grandparents are going to die before the grandchildren. And so when the grandparents die, they're instant millionaires. We don't think about that, because when we thought about insurance, we thought about it's just for burial. Insurance is one of the biggest investment tool that you can have, that when you receive it, it's tax free.
And could it also be that maybe they're in a better position economically when we have children? Not all of us, but when some of us have children, we don't have the wherewithal to maybe buy a policy like that.
You don't have to buy $1 million. You can buy 100,000.
That true.
You know,
that is true.
We don't have to buy. We need
That
to
is
start
true.
someplace.
That is true, and that is a mindset, because when you buy it when they're babies and they keep it, it's cheap.
Right, very inexpensive. And you know what happens? I think with COVID has changed a lot of mindsets too,
Yeah.
because it was the unexpected, and we want to be prepared. People died unexpectedly. It wasn't just, it didn't have an age on it.
No.
It didn't have a race on it. We just died. And then you weren't planned for it. It was unexpected. So that's why when you get insurance, when you're young and healthy, if any of these health issues comes on as we grow in life, you're already insured. It's guaranteed insurability. You're covered.
Whereas when you start, and if you don't have it and you start, you're 40, 50, 60 years old and you got chronic illnesses, you're not going to get it. Or you're going to pay such a high amount, you might as well put that money up some other kind of way.
Yeah, because I had a girl who was young and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
At 20 something, got diagnosed with MS.
Oh.
Now you're uninsurable.
At 20 something?
You're uninsurable.
Oh.
So that's what I'm saying. When you get it, when you're first born and you're very healthy, it's very inexpensive, and it guarantees insurability throughout the generation and the next generation.
Then we need to advocate to parents of new babies to
Absolutely.
get whatever insurance you can afford for that baby.
Absolutely. Or for yourself.
Right. And for yourself. Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of times we just need to understand what does it mean, what type of insurance, because they say, oh, should I get term insurance? Should I get whole life insurance? There's so many things out there. It's not a cookie cutter approach. It all depends on that individual.
And we're going to talk about that, because I got a question about that, because they're always trying to force this term stuff down your throat. I do want to talk about that. But first, a good segue to what you were talking about with this Henry was, what can I do? Okay. In the different stages. I want to break it out into 3 stages. What can I do to start a wealth building plan for someone who's young, like 20, first in their career, someone who's like 40 years old, the middle of their career, or someone who's at the end of their career? Is there different strategies for a wealth building plan?
Well, there's a different strategy, but you also always need a roadmap. The first thing we do a holistic approach with our clients. We want them to give us a budget. No matter how big or how small it might be, because some people, I don't make enough money to have a budget. If you make any money, you can have a budget, because you will be very surprised on how much you spend. When you write something down, you actually see it like, oh my God, I didn't know I was spending that.
That's
so
true.
It doesn't matter what age you are. We always start off with a budget. We need to find out where you are so then we can build a plan around that works for you. Because like you might have a 20-year-old, you might have your Generation X, you might have your millennials, then you got your baby boomers. So you got all these generations. So the plan is going to be different for everyone.
Right.
But we have to start off someplace. And a budget is the best thing because now you know what you're actually spending. And then it allows you to know if you have any disposable income. And if you don't, what are some of the areas we can tweak?
And you talked about that when you were talking about fixed and variable expenses. Explain to them what that means.
Well, fixed means your rent. That's a fixed. You got to pay that.
You got to
every month,
pay
right?
it. Yeah, right.
A variable expense might be when you're going out to dinner, entertainment.
Right.
Those are variable.
Right, variable. Yeah.
Or you go get your nails done.
Yeah.
You go get your hair done.
Wait, is that variable or is that fixed?
That's variable. We might want to say it's fixed because we want it done every 2 weeks or whatever a time we do.
But that's variable.
But that's a variable.
Yeah,
so your fixed
true.
expenses, you're going to have those every month. You got most people got a car note, that's fixed.
True.
You got your rent, that's fixed. You got your utilities, that's fixed. And food, got to eat. Those are fixed. So those are but food you can tweak a little bit on.
You can
too.
tweak that, yeah.
Yeah, but then you have your variables are the ones that we really sit down and say, do you really need this? We look at those cable bills. People have cable bills paying $200 and $300.
But that's what they cost. Cable bill costs like almost $200.
But do you need it?
I know, but you don't. But I guess I don't think about. And this is my mindset, which is kind of jacked. You don't think about maintenance on like your hair, your makeup or whatever. I'm not talking about, something extravagant, but just basic. You don't think about that as variable, but it is.
It's a variable.
And the cable is also variable.
And so we want to look at that so we can solidify our financial future.
So instead of paying that 200 something on cable, cut that in half and put 100 somewhere else.
Correct. We want to tweak it. That's why I said everyone needs a budget. Doesn't matter what age you are, what income bracket you're in, you still need a budget. That's your roadmap because you got to plan on where you're going. But if we don't know where we're starting, how can we get where we're going?
And for those who maybe have never created a budget, just kind of walk them through how they would kind of do it, like a 20-year-old who just got out of high school or whatever.
Well, what we do, we give you a budget sheet. And if any of you guys are interested in getting our budget sheet, we'll send the material out to you. We'll email it to you.
Okay.
And then you can have it in your email and you can start writing it down because it's going to tell you, like we talked about our fixed income. It's going to tell us about our fixed income.
Okay.
It's going to give us our variable expenses. So that budget is going to just give you an idea where to go. So if you're interested in that sheet, put an email out there to Jay and we will send you a budget sheet.
And we are interested because so many people I found out dealing with budgeting that they don't even know the mechanics of it. They don't know it's just looking at inflows and outflows and how much you bring in and how much is going out. They're like fixed and variable. Even I got a little screwed up on the fixed and variable because I would say hair is fixed, but it's variable. Okay. We have another pretty lady here, you guys, and I have to tell you about her. But I can't see her too well. But her name is Miss Tiffany Allen. Let me tell you something about Miss Tiffany Allen. Tiffany Allen's financial services career spanned over 25 years. She began her career with Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company and has spent a considerable amount of time with major corporations such as ADP, AFLAC, and Bank of America Merrill Lynch. Tiffany joined Prudential Advisors in January of 2016 and has won various awards during her tenure. Tiffany works from her private office. Did you get that, y'all? Private office in Matson, Illinois, where her focus has been on helping women, families, and small to mid-sized clients create strategies that allow them to leave a legacy that grows and protects their assets. In her practice, there is a heavy emphasis on promoting benefits of insurance and financial service such as life insurance, disability income, and retirement planning strategies. Tiffany has firsthand experience knowing how important this type of planning is, as her mother raised her and her 3 older siblings on the life insurance her father left for the family after his sudden passing. Tiffany has a strong commitment to servicing her clients and is extremely passionate about helping people achieve their financial goals. She has worked with clients across the country while representing Prudential at the Philadelphia Women's Conference, Black Enterprise Women of Power Conference in Las Vegas, and the Conference of African American Financial Professionals. Tiffany, in most instances, refers to her business as a ministry. During her free time, Tiffany enjoys running, traveling, and spending time with her husband, 3 children, and 5-year-old granddaughter. She has been a member of, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. since 1999. Incorporated, and strives to be a woman who serves in every situation. Help me welcome. And I'm so glad she got here so quick. Miss Tiffany Allen.
Thank you. Thank you. And in that private office, I was getting ready to do this at 6:00. So forgive my tardiness.
Oh, no. You were on the
In
highway.
Madsen.
You were, Madsen, 200 South?
I was there getting ready for our 6:00 presentation. So I got here doing 100. Not quite.
Well,
So
I hope.
thanks for having me.
Don't go back doing that fast. Please don't do that.
But glad to be here.
And we're glad you're here. We were talking about, we started off talking about this concept called Henry that I never heard of.
Yes.
And that was invigorating, and now we're kind of going into wealth building plans and at different stages, and we're talking about budgeting and stuff like that. But and Constance referred us to, you said that they can go to the site to look at the budget. What did you say?
I said they can send us their email address and we'll send the materials out.
Send who? Where? What?
Send it to Janice, and then Janice will
or you
forward
can send it to you.
Yes.
What's your email? Give them your email.
Constance.stewart@prudential.com.
Did you guys get that? It's Constance, CONSTANCE.Stewart, STEWART, at Prudential, PRUDENTIAL.com. If any of my sisters are out there, please put it in the box. Constance Stewart at Prudential.com. Yeah, we want them to make sure that they get your information.
Yeah, we can get them that budget sheet.
Yeah,
out,
so they can
give them a start.
Yeah, because I talked to so many people and like, well, budget. Well, what do you mean? And I know, like, I was going back about that variable expense line item, but some people don't even know how to begin or know how to think about, what comes in and what go out. So they have no idea how much you're spending, and that's a good thing to do, even to do an audit of your bank account.
Absolutely.
Because so many times when I've done a budget and I've seen all these little things that I thought I stopped, $5 and something here,
a subscription there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or things I trial. You ever trialed something?
Oh yeah, but that's why they try to get you, because if you don't remember, guess what? You look in
I don't
$9.99 debited to your account because you forgot to stop that subscription.
And it ticks me off. But okay, so as we were talking about wealth building at different parts of your career, in the beginning of your career, in the middle, and toward the end, and you were saying it's not one size fit all. So you can continue talking about that.
And when we're getting to that, when we're talking about budget building, we have we do a class called D Free.
D Free?
I just want you to get debt free.
Oh, okay.
And so, D Free.
I'm like, D Free.
Debt free.
You know what? My mind didn't even.
Debt
it
free.
Just thought about it when you had that look on your face. I'm like, D Free.
So we have like
that was good, Connie.
The 3 bad D's.
What are they?
3 bad D's are deficit, delinquencies, and debt.
Okay.
So deficit, delinquencies, and debt. And we want to take those bad D's and turn them into good D's by doing deposits, where we're going to put deposit money.
Yes, ma'am.
Dividends, we're going to start investing.
Make that money while
D's,
you sleep.
and we're going to acquire some real estate.
Oh, yeah, D's.
So when we get that, we're on our road to financial freedom.
And you can have that at any income level almost.
Correct, any income level. And Tiffany did a great session for her sorority in Jassic, and we had a big graduating Joliet area alumni chapter for Delta Sigma Theta sorority.
You know what?
Wait.
Excuse me. You know what? I've tried to be so respectful, and I am so respectful, but I've been hearing this Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. Yeah. I've been hearing this like all.
That's okay.
All evening.
My friend is an Alpha Kappa
but
girl.
as you notice, I am a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. I'm not one to really be loud about it or talk about it. I guess I'm kind of like Bentley. I don't have to do commercials. Let's go.
That was a good one, Jay. So I'm gonna let Tiffany talk a little bit about the D Free program that we do a lot, and it has really helped a lot of people in our culture to help them to get debt free.
Yes. And so when you think about being debt free and having financial freedom, we are still walking around here with a poverty mindset, right? And so the D Free program is about changing our hearts and our minds as it relates to our money. And don't get it confused. Being debt free doesn't make you build a positive net worth, but this is our starting point. And so the 3 Ds, as Constance said, is getting rid of your debt, because the debt that we carry around is really like shackles on us. And we want to shake those shackles off. Okay. So getting debt free should be the goal. And don't get me wrong, there are some reasons why we have debt. It could be because of student loans.
Ooh, don't talk
It
about
could
that.
be,
That's a whole
right,
conversation, but go ahead.
divorce.
Mhm.
But why we stay in debt is something that we can change. So we first want to start by tackling the debt. And as we tackle the debt, we want to make sure that we're tackling if there are some deficits in our income, in our budget. Do we have more month than money? Let me say that again.
Do we
have more month than
The
money? Ponder on that. Right? And so if we do, then we have a different conversation. So we figured that out. And then as it relates to delinquencies, if your rent is due on the 5th, if
Mhm.
your mortgage is due on the 5th, if your credit card payment is due on the 5th, we want to pay it on the 5th, maybe the 4th. We want to get rid of those delinquencies because delinquencies follow us. Anybody familiar with algorithms?
Mhm.
So as we're trying to get more credit, because there is good credit, right? Your mortgage is a good credit. But as we're trying to get more credit and establish ourselves, these algorithms pull us up as being delinquent. If we pay on the 6th or the 7th or the 8th.
Even a day later?
Even a day
The
later.
algorithm will do it for a day later?
It will pull you up a day later. And these algorithms are making decisions about you. So as we get rid of debt, we also want to make sure we're dealing with the delinquencies and deficits. Let me give an example. So let's say we do have more money than we do month, right? We pay all our bills in the month, in the 30 days in the month, but we pay our rent or mortgage on the 8th when it's due on the 1st. We pay our car payment on the 15th because they give us a 5-day grace period, right? Or a 10-day grace period. And all our bills are paid. So we've tackled some of that debt, but we're still delinquent. And so as we move through this freeing process and removing those shackles, every day from the 10th through the 15th that you don't pay, are you thinking about it? Are you trying to shake those shackles off? Are you waiting for the next check to come in? And so we want to really raise our level of consciousness as it relates to our budgets, our bills, being debt-free, making sure that we aren't delinquent and getting rid of all those deficits in our lives. It's really about raising your level of consciousness.
Because, everything is credit driven now.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
And so when they looking at their algorithms and they're seeing, oh, this person paid something on then they can extend the credit differently to us. Because when I was talking to, what was your name, young Earl,
the other Winfrey.
Oh, the other
owner. The owner.
And when we're talking about when you go buy a car, because that can be good debt, but your credit is going to tell you, are you going to pay the 0% or are you going to pay the 7%? And think about it. If you're paying 0% versus 7%, that 7% is something that you can use to start investing in another tool to grow your wealth. So we want to find ways to maximize because everything is credit driven. Do you guys know that you can get a credit report once a year free?
Yep.
So you need to always do that because even though you're paying your bills, there might be somebody's credit on there that doesn't belong to you. So you always want to know where you stand because Tiffany's favorite word is you got to always have an assignment for your money. She loves to say that. And she'll tell you about that. What you're going to assign your money to do, how you're going to make it work for you. And so when we're trying to build wealth, we want to get through all those and like Tiffany said, take those shackles off so we can become free.
I think the algorithm part has been eye-opening because I didn't
they do
know.
An algorithm for everything, Janice.
I just didn't think that I thought they had some kind of I didn't think they would a day. Okay, so I'm a day late. It was due on the 5th. I paid on the 6th, like she said. So I'm
everything
getting
is
dinged.
tracked. Do you know?
Wow.
Every single thing that
dinged.
you do is tracked.
And have you ever gone into your phone and said, how did they know I was looking for that?
Girl, don't you hate that?
Yes.
It's like Big Brother is really watching.
They really are. And part of the reason you want to make sure you're paying on time. So let's say worst case scenario is you pay on the 5th when it was due on the 1st, and you have a $25 late fee.
No, I don't like late fees.
Right?
But they out there.
But they're out there and
Yeah.
they are happening.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you add those up and we get to the good D's, like deposits and dividends and deeds, we have found when you really take a hold of your budget and you get those late fees out of the equation,
Mhm.
now you have a way to add more to the deposit category.
True, because you're not paying the extra
You're not
$25
paying the
or
extra
whatever.
late fees. Exactly.
And even though he was saying, I was telling him that if we just looked at starting off, because you have people in different income level,
Right.
and $25 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do it on a consistent base,
Right.
that can really grow for you. And then when you get more income or you get better established, you could always raise it.
Or cut half that cable bill.
Girl, that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
That just upset me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why when we do your budget, we're going to go through it and we look at, okay, do you really need this? Is this something that we can work with? Because we want to find out how we can create wealth. Why is it that we are the Henrys? And I'm not saying that everyone makes a lot, but it's not how much you make, it's how you maximize that. And so we just want to make sure that we're covering all the buckets there.
Okay.
That's why I said all debt is not bad debt, because we got to have some debt in order to be credit worthy.
And when you go into the good debt category, other than mortgage, what else would be considered good debt?
Car note, got to have a car.
Yeah, you got to get back and forth.
Things that are necessity, almost your fixed that we talked about,
Mhm.
fixed. Those are more of your good debt. And that's why it's very important to make sure you pay the good debt on time.
Than
So-
the retail stores, which is bad debt.
Bad debt.
I'm glad Phil's is gone. I'm just joking.
And we're not saying you can't do that retail
Right.
therapy or shopping, but having a budget really gives you permission to do it.
Because then you know how much I can allocate to this.
Exactly.
Okay, I have this much to spend on whatever. So,
Exactly.
That's what I say. You got to have a little roadmap. You got to know where you're starting to get where you're going.
And as you raise your level of consciousness, you figure out why you're spending.
mhm.
Right? Are you spending because you want to be conspicuous? Do you want everyone to see that you drive a Mercedes, see that you carry a nice bag? Or are you more confused with your spending? Are you going through Starbucks every day and buying a drink and something to eat, and it's $11, and you add that up at the end of the month, and you could buy a whole bag of coffee for $11? That's confused spending.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about raising your level of consciousness, think about why you spend. And I give some tricks when I teach the class. I love Home Goods. I go there all the time.
Mhm.
But when I see something I like, I go home and I think about it.
I do too.
And-
I love to do that.
Yes.
I don't.
And what
impulse.
happens the next day?
I normally don't need it.
Exactly.
Because like I really want to.
Exactly.
It ain't all that.
It's not that serious, right?
Yeah.
So we have to just raise our level of consciousness.
Good points.
Before you came also, Tiffany, we were talking about insurance.
Yes.
Oh, that
And-
was my next
Was
question.
it your next question?
How? Wait, this is one. It's twofold.
Okay.
How much life insurance should I have? And this is one that she's kind of jabbed down my throat. And should I count my insurance from my employer? Because she goes, well, what about you? Anyway, go ahead. You're gonna answer.
Well, I'll take the part. The reason we tell you that you shouldn't count your insurance from your employer, because most of the time, this generation, they change jobs every 3 to 5 years. And so the insurance is only good as it is when you're with that employer. So now say you change jobs about 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
You're 50 years old now. You don't have any outside insurance. Look at the cost of it.
Right, because you waited till you got, and that we
Right.
used to talk about that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And that's why when you were saying that it would be nice if parents got insurance for themselves and their children when they were born almost.
Yeah.
I mean, so. But how much life insurance should a person have?
That's why I told you it's not a cookie cutter approach. We have to look at your goals, objective, and see where you are and what fits your family needs.
Okay.
But there are a couple ways that you can approach how much life insurance you should have. You can go the old school route and say, I'm going to do 10 times my income, because life insurance is for the people you want to leave behind,
Mm-hmm.
the people that you leave behind. It's really for them. It's income replacement. So it's easy to say 10 times your income. And 9 times out of 10, that's not enough, but that's a good
That's a
starting
good
point. And we can talk
I know
about
you
why.
said like,
So,
but think
no.
about it. If you're gone, that
Yeah,
income has to
yeah.
be replaced
Yep.
forever,
forever.
right? Forever.
So you want to make sure that you're prepared.
Right.
Like the Girl Scout, you want to be prepared. So we have like even a estimator that kind of shows you if you make this much, how they estimate how much you should have.
Right.
So
That makes sense.
these are a lot of tools that we do because I told you we do a holistic approach. We look at the total
Mhm.
outlook on the client to make sure that we're going to build that portfolio for that client. So when you have your estimator, it gives you an estimate about how much hey, 10 times as much. But think about that. If you're making 100,000, you say 10 times that's a million.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty standard.
Because you're gone now. So how are they going to feel that deficit
Right.
when your income is
But
no
you
longer
have to
there?
be realistic when okay, that's good for a person that's 20 years old and healthy, or 25 and healthy, or 30 and healthy. That's good. But when a person gets older, then I think the paradigm kind of changes to what they need to bury themselves and leave their kids a little bit.
I say drop a dime on yourself, right? Think about your debt in its totality.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your D.
That's a D.
Think about your income,
Mhm.
replace your income, look at the ages of your children. What are
Mhm.
your goals for your children? Do you want to have college? So you want to replace your income so the people you leave behind can fulfill your dreams. Next is the M, your mortgage. You certainly want to make sure you leave your family a home without a mortgage, right?
Mhm.
A paid
Mhm.
off piece of property so they have a deed. And then education for your children. So debt, income, mortgage, and education.
So drop a dime.
So drop a dime on yourself. And if those two don't really fit your budget, right, you can
Mhm.
also say, I'd like to spend this on life insurance. This is what I can afford for premium. And then you marry that to the amount of coverage that affords you. Worst case scenario. But 10 times
Okay.
your income, drop a dime on yourself, or talk to a professional who can really back you into what's going to make the most sense for your specific situation.
Well, a lot of people who I know, we were talking about it before the term. We talked about people that GoFundMe, and people that are older who can't get insurance. So they, nobody wants to have to do a GoFundMe.
No.
And most of these people who I'd be talking about are older. They have kids that are older. The kids are adults. The kids are out of school. They're not worried about some of those other things. So they're basically just worried about basic coverage to bury them, basically, maybe a little more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, you're absolutely right. It isn't one size fit all. But we also talked about the term and the whole thing, because everybody's always calling you. You get all these robocalls about this term insurance.
Yeah.
You can get
And
$2 million.
TV.
And it's like, dang well, I could anyway.
$9.95 a month.
And it's like, wait, now keep it real. Tell me the difference between the two.
Well, term is just what it means, term.
Mhm.
If it's a 10-year, it's good for 10 years.
And that's so crazy. And there's I won't say the company out of
Okay.
respect.
Did you have a term?
Yes, I did. A big one. And
it
then when I
expired.
turned to certain, it's like, wait,
It quadruples in the cost.
Yeah.
it was like,
It
what happened?
quadruples.
I had ignorance.
But there is a place for term, right? So if
for young people, when you have little kids, I think.
when you have children,
Yep.
possibly when you have a mortgage, right? You
Yep,
want to cover
yep.
the term of that mortgage.
Right.
Maybe you have a specific piece of debt that you want to leave behind if something were to happen to you.
That makes
So
sense.
you want to put all of that in possibly a term policy. You get more for less. So
Right.
there is a place for term
I agree.
coverage.
So we
I
do a
agree.
blended. We'll look at, again, each person's different. We
Mhm.
might give them some term and some permanent insurance, which will last with them for the rest of their
They have
life.
hybrid insurance plans?
Yes, hybrid.
Good
Yeah, you
Lord.
can-
I'm
yeah,
just
you
saying.
can-
You can say
you
that.
can say
I mean,
that.
okay, or whatever it is,
You know,
blended,
Like
whatever.
multifaceted approach.
Okay,
Right.
thank
to
you. That
coverage.
sounds so much better.
Yeah, but people, like you said, when you're young, you're starting off, you got a mortgage, and young couple, they
Yeah.
want to make sure
Yeah.
if something happens, the mortgage is paid off.
The kids can go to
Term
college.
is
Yes.
there, right?
That's
Because
true.
you want to do that, and then as you get older,
And that's when I got it, when the kids were young. But then it's like,
but you didn't migrate over
because
because knowledge is power. You didn't know, Jay.
You didn't know.
I'm like, what
Right.
happened? What?
Just like when I have a lot of baby boomers that are retiring now, they didn't realize that they have no life insurance when they retire
Right.
because they only had it on the job.
Yeah, and I thought some companies did carry it over through your
but
retirement.
it comes. But then by the time it's like 5 years is down to 10 grand.
I was going to say it
It
shrinks because I know how
shrinks,
AT&T's did.
Right, it
They,
shrinks.
Yes.
So they didn't realize that. They're like, oh wow,
They're like, I got coverage, and they're like,
because my mom, she worked all her life, and she didn't know that she didn't have life insurance when she got ready to retire.
Mhm.
So when she took out a policy, of course, she couldn't take out a big policy at that point, but she
No.
wanted to make sure that,
Right, that
all her expenses
were
was
covered, yeah.
and had a little bit for her children.
Mhm.
But if we know, so when you know better, you do better.
And that's why we should advocate to these people now all
Right,
the time.
we have to
Yes.
tell them all the time about it, because they didn't know. I was telling you, Janice, our conversation at the table is so much different from our counterpart. Our conversation at the table is, hey girl, did you find out how much that Gucci bag? When does the next Jordan come out? Their conversation is, what mutual funds are we going to invest in?
Mhm.
What type of policy?
Did you see how the market
Did you
went
get your
down?
trust done?
Yep.
Get your
Yes.
trust done?
Who is your attorney? Who is your CPA? The conversation is different. And I know Constance and I have been at a lot of these tables and are sometimes just taken aback at how different the conversations are and how soon they start in other households outside of Black and brown families.
Do you think it's that much different because of the, as Connie mentioned, the wealth gap, the huge wealth gap?
Not even the wealth gap. I think it's generational. When our parents were working, they were thinking about how we can take care of our family, how we can feed them, give them shelter. They didn't know anything about investing.
Right.
My mom was educated, but she didn't know anything about investing. She knew that she had to take care of children, make sure they had food, make sure they had clothes. So it never came up because they didn't know anything about it. So it doesn't matter that you make 20,000, 40,000. It's the knowledge about how you can maximize that dollar, and we have to start talking about that more. Now, this generation, they know a little bit more about it.
They do know a little bit
Yeah,
more.
they
a little
know
bit
more.
They do.
So I don't think it had anything to do with income, because they made a lot of high earners back then in the baby boomer generation, but they didn't know.
And here's the fact of the matter. We are $250,000 behind on this racial wealth gap. We need $250,000 per person to catch up.
Yep.
Left unchecked, meaning we do nothing about it, it goes negative by 2030.
Yep.
2036, I believe. It goes negative.
Right.
And so it's an epidemic. We need to make some changes and make some changes quickly. We need to think about leaving. And I heard this earlier as I was driving in. The Bible says you have to leave an inheritance for your children's children.
Mm-hmm.
And Constance and I always talk about how in families, when there's a child born, there's insurance, the grandchildren take out insurance.
Right. For the child. For the grandchild.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we have to get in the habit of doing that. So there's something left behind. We're never going to catch up if we don't start doing that.
How are you advocating to tell people that? I mean, how are you getting the word out?
Programs
How are
like
you?
this, we're talking, we're doing seminars, we had a big convention, and people were just like, wow. And our culture has money. They just don't know what to do with the money. And then it's a trust factor. They don't know who to trust.
We do have trust issues.
We have trust issues.
That's true. It's very
and so
true.
when you sit down, like we have a conversation now, and when we do our seminars, they're like, oh, I didn't know about that. I'm so glad I can find someone to talk to. Especially can I find someone to talk to that looks like you.
Right.
Because in the financial industry, there aren't that many African Americans in the financial industry, number one. So as we grow, our knowledge increases, we want to make sure that we get that information out there to us. So whatever means we can do with educational seminars. I'm so glad you allowed us to talk tonight about it. Hopefully we got some listeners out there. When we did our big conference in Minnesota this past August, we had over 100. We had like thousands of sewers there. So we got the word out. So it's just, spreading the word.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like you said, Jay, we worked in corporate. We didn't understand that
Oh,
we
I
needed
wish I
all the
would
out.
have.
If we knew what we knew then, we'd be millionaires, wouldn't we?
Don't mention.
And there are a lot of millionaires who have $1 million in their 401k or their 403b or their employer program. We see that all the time. That's a great place to start. And most people aren't even doing that.
That's what we were talking about
Some
earlier.
people aren't doing that.
Not understanding that how important it is to invest in your company's provided retirement plan. And most of them, everybody's familiar with the 401k. Because even when you're making $20,000, and your company offers that, you need to invest because that's less money that you're going to get taxed on now to
Mhm.
build your retirement for the future.
But I think the way we think, and like she was saying, we do have trust issues. We have other issues, but we don't think about putting the max in there because we're thinking I don't even have enough to live. And they do. Many times they do. If you're making 80, 90, 100 grand, you have enough to live. I'm just saying.
Right, but that's
Generally.
why the budget is so
Yeah.
important, because when
Right.
you work that budget, they can actually see, oh, I do have that money.
Right. You have enough to
So
live.
you need to see it.
Because I was so happy when I was younger when I made $30,000. I never felt like I had more money than $30,000, even though my salary is
Quadruple.
But I still, you know how you still don't feel like that 30,000. Well, back in the day when it was cost of living wasn't as high and all that, but I don't know. We're just not, like you said, we're not doing what we should do with our money. Boy, this is a conversation. Dang, we can't even get through half of this. What's the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA?
Well, a Roth IRA means that you've already paid the tax on the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so now any earnings from the money is tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
And with a Roth IRA, we like to recommend that if you don't have like a 401 at work, because we want you to first maximize that 401 because that's tax deferred. So if you don't have one, an individual can put up to $6,000 a year into a Roth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're over 50, you can do 7,000. But the thing is, you've already paid taxes on it. So if you put that in there at 30 and 60, now all those earnings tax free.
Hmm.
Now, traditional IRA is tax deferred. It's sort of like a 401.
Right.
You haven't paid tax on it yet. And so if you're doing an individual, the amount is still the same, 6,000 or 7,000. It doesn't change if you're doing individuals. So it all depends, again, what your goal and objective are, what your income level is like, if you need to get an individual, or should you, and some 401 has Roth already involved into
Mm-hmm.
their company.
Some of them do. Right.
And if you can do that, then we also say that's your pre-tax and your post-tax. So you always want to put a little post-tax in there because an emergency might come up and you've already been taxed on that.
Right.
You can utilize that, because if you take money out of your 401 or even your IRA before 59 and a half, you're hitting a penalty.
Right.
And just to piggyback on that, the reason why you would want to have a Roth, as Constance said, all the earnings you can pull out tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. And so if you don't have to pay taxes on those earnings,
You're keeping
more in your pocket.
Yeah.
And if I was a betting woman, I think the taxes were going to go up.
And they are.
It used to be in retirement that taxes were lower in
Mhm.
retirement. That's not the case anymore.
Mhm.
So we want to make sure we have a tax efficiency plan in place, and the Roth IRA is how you do that.
I'm not trying to rush through this, but we're not going to even get through half of this. This is really, I can't
Well,
believe
you have
this
to have us back again, Jay.
Should I pay down my debt first? This is a great question. Should I pay down my debt first or save 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses? What goes first? What do I do?
Well, first of all, it depends on your situation, but 9 times out of 10, you want to make sure you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses, liquid that you can get to. When this COVID-19 pandemic came up, it was really a confidence crisis. Those who were confident that they could ride this thing out for 3 to 6 months because they had some level of savings were a little more confident than those who didn't. So it's imperative that you have that savings plan. However, having that debt, and we talked about that, getting rid of those shackles is still of the utmost importance. So again, if you are in a position where you can't do both, you have more month than income,
Mm-hmm.
We have to start really taking a deeper dive in that budget, or maybe even looking at ways you can earn an additional amount of income for the month, because you really want to make sure you have both. And again, working with a financial professional, a financial educator, an advisor, we can help you with those things. We can help you sort some of those things out. But you really want to have 3 to 6 months of income, and you don't want to have this debt shackled to you.
Okay.
So it depends. It really depends on the person.
This isn't for me to ask. Am I too young? Because I know I'm not. But what is too young for long-term care plan? Is there an age it's too young?
No.
Or isn't it better to get it when
It's
you're
better.
young?
It's again.
That's
It's
what I'm
better to get it
thinking.
when
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
young.
yeah.
Everything is less expensive when you're young.
But how can we tell these young people that are just getting these professional jobs?
Let me say this. Death
Mhm.
is an event that you have to plan for.
Yes.
Getting ill
Is
an event that you have to plan for. So you're not too young. And nowadays there are hybrid solutions where you don't just have to have a long-term care plan. You do have actual hybrid plans. So perhaps a life insurance policy that's going to pay out in death, but it will also pay you while you're living if you're unable to perform those activities of daily living. So you do have plans that will serve both needs.
Really?
Yes.
And those are very popular, especially, as you live longer, the probability of something happening in your life
increases. You know that.
And most people don't want to go to a nursing home,
right?
So you want to live in your home as long as possible. And so with the hybrid approach, if we want to say, with the life insurance policy, they have riders on there that allows you to access that money while you're still living.
For the long-term care.
Yeah, for someone to come into your home and take care of you. Say you had a $100,000 policy, you can get 4% of that, $4,000 a month for in-home health care when you can't do two of your daily needs. So a lot of people are getting that because they're like, I want to stay in my home as long as I can. I don't want to go to a nursing home.
Right.
But I don't want to financially drain my family.
Because you would.
You would. And a lot of things, you have to, before you get any state assistance, you got to have everything gone.
You do.
And you have to prepare 5 years before.
Oh, we found that.
So that's why you want to make sure that you're planning, because a lot of parents might get sick.
Right.
They haven't taken care of their home and changes over and put someone else's name on there. You don't qualify for any type of assistance because you have assets. And so you can't get it until all the assets are drained.
Yeah.
And so you want to protect those assets. That's why insurance can help you protect those assets too. That's what I'm saying. It's about knowledge, Janice. We have to teach and educate because knowledge is power. And
you need to really kind of get in that. And I'm not saying that middle-aged and older people don't, because we need the information too, but I think that the college age people that are about to get out of college or those people that are getting ready to go to work in the workforce, man, if they had these tools, if they
just think about it when I met you, Jay. If we
girl, be quiet. I didn't want to talk about it. Making me want to throw up. I'm sorry.
Because Jay was in finance then back in the 80s and 90s, and we made money, but we didn't have all this knowledge that we have now. And I think by just spreading it to your generation, to your son.
That's what I'm saying. How can we be advocates for that? Because all we were thinking about was getting a new Benz every other year and going to Marshall Fields. It was stupid. It was just, we were crazy. We're conspicuous consumers. And I wanted a Benz because I just wanted one. I mean, it's like stupid.
Black people buy the most Mercedes.
I know.
Period.
It kind of turned me off a little bit when I heard that statistic. I'm like, what?
Like,
but I was one of them.
Instead of Henry Janice, you were a Benz buyer.
I was like, what? And I'm thinking about how crazy was that?
That's why we want to turn our Henrys into high earners, rich yielding. We want to make our money grow.
Okay, and speaking of making our money grow, because we running out of. I cannot believe this. Jeez. Okay, so let's talk about the average income earner in our community. Let's talk about someone making $50,000 or $60,000, and they walk in your office and they don't have a budget, they don't have a savings plan, they don't have 3 to 6 months. They have a lot of variable expenses. Could you counsel them to put them on a plan? Because I don't want to just focus on those high wage earners or 200,000 or whatever. I want to talk about the people that make, in the middle of the road, 50, 60,000.
Yeah, because the majority of our African Americans, they don't make six figures. So we do have to work with them so we can make them have their money ready when they want to retire.
Right.
So yes, I don't care what income, Jay, we start with a budget.
She said she don't care what income, start with a budget.
Start with the budget.
Okay.
And we're going to look at those variable expenses pretty closely.
Man, I'm going to look at mine tonight because that cable and the hair just blew me away too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, like I said, it's not a cookie cutter approach. We have to just look at each individual. Because everybody have their own goals and objectives.
Right.
Some people want to retire at 45.
They do. They say
so what we do, we set that budget, we put it into a plan, and each year when we do our annual review, we'll see, are you on the right track?
Wow.
Are you investing more? Are you maximizing your 401? Have you cut down your expenses? Have you done your homework? Because we give you homework to do. And we look at it. Yeah, because
Well, you got to see what
you
they,
got to
yeah,
see if you
yeah,
got a budget.
yeah,
Are you
yeah,
really
you have
trying
to see it.
follow
Yeah.
You know, so it's just it's amazing the difference that we have made in the Black culture just by getting them a budget, getting them on track.
Do you think Black people, other than student loans, I don't want to even talk about that. That has to be for another session. We didn't get to talk about real estate either. But when thinking about debt, do you think Black people have more debt than other races?
Yes.
Yes.
We do.
Hands down.
Yeah.
More debt. I'm not talking about student loans.
No,
Yeah,
debt.
debt.
Credit card debt, number
Credit
one, is
card
the
debt,
main
yeah.
one.
We do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we do.
The biggest difference, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Constance,
No, go
but
ahead. Go.
the biggest difference is there used to be charge cards where you charge something and you pay it off. And the biggest difference I see, because I have all sorts of clients, is that Black and brown people carry a balance opposed to
Like American Express used to be, you pay it off right away.
Right.
correct, opposed to paying it off right away. So we carry a lot of that debt.
And that's what gets us in
And
trouble.
that's
We're
what
paying
gets us
interest
in
on all
trouble.
those.
The next
Right.
thing you know, you have $1,000 worth of credit card debt
And
or
so,
$1,000 payment a month.
right, a month. So that $1,000, you could be, oh, Janice, that smiled. People have like
Yeah.
$1,500 that they're paying in credit card debt every month,
Mhm.
and that's not putting a dent in the credit that they owe.
Minimum payments.
Minimum payments. And just think about it, if you reverse that, Jay, and you didn't have that, look at that $1,500 where you can redirect it.
And you can literally counsel them and walk them through a person making 50 or 60,000, paying $1,000 in credit card debt after they do this budget. You can walk them through a strategy to pay that down,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
even though right now they're only paying the minimum.
Yes.
Hmm.
That's why I said is we look at each person individually and find out what is their plan. Do they plan to retire? What's their goal? Do you want to be debt free?
Of course,
you
don't
wanna buy-
everybody want to be debt free?
Everybody don't want to be debt free. Do you want to buy a mortgage? What's one of your biggest expenses you want? Some people say, I want to travel. Okay, well, we gotta look and see how we can make that happen for you. I want a new car. Well, it might not be the time to buy one.
Yeah, no.
Because if you can pay mostly cash for a car, look at all the interest you're saving.
It's true.
Yeah, we
Very
just had a
true.
client that was paying like $600 or $700 a month. We looked at her budget, she had this disposable income. We want to pay that off.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's $3,000 or more a year that you're saving that you can redirect those funds into something else. And they didn't even realize it. They, like you say, they just sign a note and they say $600. Oh, I can pay that. But look how much you're giving them in interest. And so it's just when they write it down and see it, they're like, oh my God, they never realized
Right.
it.
And I got it. Okay, I got one more question.
Okay.
I know Earl's probably saying, rent versus buying. That's always a big question because people say, okay, so not now because now the interest rates are going back up, but like 6 months ago, you have mortgage brokers calling you. People are saying, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Isn't it? Don't you think everyone shouldn't buy? I'm just asking, as a financial advisors, as a financial gurus that you guys are.
Jay, all these questions you ask are great, but it's also the individual.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
It
because
depends.
it might
It's not cookie cutter.
it might be a person in my age or your age to say, I just want to rent. I don't want to own anything.
Right.
And
Right.
we can look and
Yes.
see because you might not want to do the upkeep, the maintenance,
And all that. The
But then
grass
you got
and
a
all that.
younger person, and then you used to could write off so much.
Right.
So
and now
it's-
look how
it's-
much you.
You don't get, you're limited on so much.
Yeah.
So again, we look at your goals, your objective, and then we can determine if rent versus. But it's always good to build assets. Maybe you might maybe you might buy a duplex and you're renting out. And
Oh,
you get
now
extra
that
income.
now that's
That makes
smart.
So that's what we say. We look at different goals.
That is
Because
smart.
it's an income producing and you're not paying for it. Someone
That's
else
true.
is paying for it. You always want to maximize your dollar, make it grow. So that's why we want to say you want to get to deeds,
Deeds.
one of the good deeds.
Now that's a smart suggestion because I always thought buying, but that's smart.
Yeah, you always want to work with somebody else's money versus yours, right?
Yeah.
Any type of business, if you're an entrepreneur, you want to use their money, you want to use yours.
No. Right.
So
You're
that's
right.
right. So if you want to acquire property, think of property is going to give you income and you're not paying for it. You just kind of living rent free.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why I said
That's
sit
a perfect
down,
scenario. Yeah, that
we
is.
sit down and look at each individual's objective and goals. And then
Yes.
we work from that. A person making $20,000 a year could acquire a property where someone else is paying their rent and they're
Oh, yeah,
being able
that's
to
smart.
build their money. Yeah. We're trying to create that wealth that you're not aware of because there are hidden things there that you didn't even think about. You didn't think about that, did you, Jay?
Mm-mm.
See, a lot of people don't think about it. Oh, I can't afford it.
I'm just thinking about this house, this big house, and I got. That's all I'm thinking.
And
Like,
even
oh,
with
no.
young people, they buy property and they get roommates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
They
Yeah.
get passive income. Got to have other streams of income. You don't ever want to, if you can't have, don't lock yourself into one stream of income.
Right.
They got so many work at home things you could do.
They
now,
sure
create
do.
wealth.
Everybody
Now you
has
can.
multiple,
Yes.
and I believe, I
I
believe in
believe
multiple
in multiple
streams.
streams
Of,
of
I believe
income.
in that.
Streams of income.
I believe in that because I have more. What? How do you say? Month and
More.
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 You can
I'm
have
gonna
more
mess it
money
up.
than
Money.
money, but
Yeah,
you want to
money.
have more money than money.
I want to have more money than month,
Yes.
right? So I get multiple streams of income,
Yes.
and I do believe in that. In our time, I cannot believe. Oh man, I didn't even get to. Okay,
We'll have to come back and see you again, Jay, because what
I
we're
think
trying to
our
spread
time
the
is
word.
up.
Yes.
I think so, man. I cannot believe.
And again, Jay, just tell them, just make sure that they email me so I can get the information out.
And would
to
you
them.
please give out your email again?
Constance.stewart@prudential.com, Tiffany.allen@prudential.com. We can send you the budget. We can send you a life estimator to give you an idea how much insurance you need, tools that you can start to work with.
Yes.
Give us a call, and we'll be glad to sit down and talk to you. If you make 10,000, up to it's unlimited.
Wow.
So no money is too small to have an advisor to work with.
Did you hear that? Now that is what I wanted to hear. She said no money is too small. I could literally start out doing half my cable bill because that just hurt my heart, but I can do it.
You can do
You
it.
can do it,
We
Jay.
all can do it.
Half of my cable bill because I don't need to watch a stupid tube that much anyway. Okay, our time is up. I cannot believe our time is up already. It has been such a joy talking to these financial gurus, and that's what they are, Miss Allen and Miss Stewart. And I definitely want them back. Matter of fact, I'm trying to think in my mind as we're talking, how can I do something for people every month to kind of reiterate it? It needs to be enforced. I mean, these are concepts I should know and I should have been on top of it, but not. So we need to
Never too
enforce
late,
it.
Jay.
It's never too late. We need to enforce it. We'll be back next week at the same time. And next week we're going to have, for those of you old enough to remember Jeffrey Dahmer, he was on Netflix recently. The girl who jumped up and down, who was on every major network, she was screaming and calling them all kind of names. It's going to be on next week. So if you can watch it next week at 6 p.m., I'd appreciate it. If you can't, you can watch the rebroadcast. For all of you that missed this show, please share, and watch the rebroadcast. This is Jana signing off on Intellectual Radio with Miss Stewart and Miss Allen. Have a blessed night.